they are excused from what other people are, what's required from other people. That's Allah's stuff. And we don't worry and concern ourselves with that. I don't know if it answers sufficiently. We can have more discussion after that. I don't want to be level with. Right. Maf'ul Mutlaq. What did I say this Maf'ul Mutlaq was about? I don't know of an adequate English translation for the term Maf'ul Mutlaq. So I didn't translate it, right? But we said it's a masdar that usually follows a verb. Usually has the same root letters. Right? Usually it is the masdar of that verb. So the masdar of a verb must have the same root letters. Right? And it comes for one of three reasons we said: to emphasize, to clarify number, or to clarify type. Right? And we had in our exercise, we had to identify that. What the Maf'ul Mutlaq was and what type it was. So what do we have here? Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Where's the Maf'ul Mutlaq there? Fathan. And which one is it? Mubayyinun lil-naw' or mubayyinun lil-'adad? Mubayyinun lil-naw', to clarify the type, right? So Fathan is Maf'ul Mutlaq, and that's why it's in Halatul Nasb. Mubinan is in which hal? Nasb. Why? Because it's a sifa. It's a sifa for the Maf'ul Mutlaq. And that's how Mubayyinun lil-naw' normally comes. It's the Maf'ul Mutlaq with a sifa. Right? Okay. Next one. Wallahu anbatakum min al-ardi nabata. What's it over here? How many babs did you do already? Everybody in the class. So you did normal one, fa'ala yaf'alu. You did fa'ala yufa'ilu. You did fa'ala yufa'ilu. Not yet af'ala. Okay. The verb ambata is on that form, af'ala. Wallahu anbatakum min al-ardi nabata. What's the maf'ul mutlaq here? Nabata. Nabata. Okay. Now, next week, whatever, when you do the fourth bab, then you're going to see that word nabata is not the masdar of anbata. The masdar of anbata is inbata. Inbata. Don't worry about it for now. When we're done with these, then I'm going to mention some more things about the maf'ul mutlaq. Next one. وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Where's the maf'ul mutlaq? Tartila. Okay, and what is the purpose of nabata and tartila? They're the same emphasis. Right? You can see there's no number attached to them, nor is there any sifa attached to them. They're just for emphasis. وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Rattil and tartil mean exactly the same thing. Rattil and tartil mean exactly the same thing. If you, how does that bab sound? That's the second one. You know that one. Rattala yurattilu tartilan murattilun murattalun rattil la turattil. Right? So is there any difference between rattil and tartil in meaning? No. You see, if you go to a translation, you might find something like this, and they recite the Quran melodiously or in a measured pace or something like that. And then you think to yourself, rattil means to read, and tartila means in a measured pace. You might think that if you go look from a translation, but that's not the case. Rattil means to read in a measured pace. So if I just said Rattilil Qur'ana, it will mean that same thing. Read the Quran in measured pace and tone. It means the same thing. Tartila, it just adds emphasis to it. It just emphasizes that command. That's what I'm saying. Maf'ul mutlaq is hard to translate into English. Even to find, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not like I don't know English grammar that much. Like in that much depth. I mean, I obviously know what we learned at school and maybe a bit more than that. But equivalent currency. How to check? Yeah. Okay, let's check the next one. فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة. مال يميل. What's the مفعول المطلق دي؟ ميلة. مال يميل ميلة. So, فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة. What is this here now? مبين للنوع مبين للعدد. مبين للعدد. You can see there's a number following it, right? ميلة واحدة. Right. What translation did you get? Because if you look at yeah, you see. مال على. When you use that حرف على, it means to like to go against someone. Yeah. So that's when you use that حرف على, you can say مال إلى something. Then it's like you have an affinity to something or you incline to something. So oftentimes verbs, the meaning of a verb can differ greatly depending on what حرف it's used. Right. Okay, next one. What تحب.
Can I just interrupt you? The wahidatan, is it not a sifa? I think that's what Quran Haif said, that only mailatan is maf'ul mutlaq, but wahidatan is a sifa to mailatan.
That's correct. That is 100% correct. The maf'ul mutlaq is mailatan. If I ask you what hal is wahidatan in, you must tell me it is nasb. Why is it in nasb? Because it's a sifa. Sifa for what? Mailatan. Right. But the type of sifa that this is that it's a number. Right? Numbers in Arabic can be very confusing. For the number 1, you usually form it like a sifa. Right? Mailatan wahidatan, darban wahida. For 2, you just make a due. Ani. For 3 till 10, you make a mudafun ilay construction. ثلاثة بيوت. For 11 and 12, it's again no. For 11 and 12, it will be a construction that we call tamyiz. But the genders must be the same. For 13 to 19, it's again a tamyiz thing, but the genders must be opposite. For 20 to 99, it's also tamyiz, but the word must be singular. So numbers in Arabic can be confusing. Then from 100 to 999 is different. Then from 1,000 up is different again. I actually once, I don't know if I still have it anyway, but once I did make a table summarizing how all the numbers work. I'll try to find it inshallah. It was very, very long ago. It was when it was maybe 10 years ago. But hopefully I'll have it somewhere. Maybe even more. Actually more than that. Okay. The point is this sifa is a number and that's why it's mubayyinun lil adad. Next one. وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. What's the maf'ul mutlaq there? تُحِبُّونَ حُبًّا. What حُبًّا جَمًّا. Jamma is a sifa for حُبًّا here. But it's not referring to a number, right? Jamma is not the number. So what kind is this here? Clarifying the no, the type. The next one. فَاصْبِرْ صَبْرًا جَمِيلًا. Sabran. What one is this clarifying? Type. Be patient, a beautiful patience. وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. Same. What's the maf'ul mutlaq there? Hajran. What's it clarifying? No, right? Beautiful avoidance. وَسَرِّحُوهُنَّ سَرَاحًا جَمِيلًا. سَرَاحًا. وَسَرِّحُوهُنَّ سَرَاحًا جَمِيلًا. Again, clarifying. Time. Have a beautiful patience. Leave them in a beautiful manner. سَرِّحُوهُنَّ, again, divorce them in a beautiful manner. Okay. Now I want to move on to some additional examples. You guys have this PDF, right? It's varied. It's very, very. You guys have this page, right? Additional examples. So I don't know if I went from like straightforward to next level, yeah. But I'm going to tell you something. Listen to me. Let me tell you something. Sometimes a word comes in nasb, maf'ul mutlaq. The masdar is present. It's in nasb, but there's no verb. So the maf'ul mutlaq comes simply to replace the verb. It comes to replace the verb. So let's look at the first example here. لا تعبدون إلا الله. That's the sentence. Do not worship except Allah. That's fine, right? Then we have another sentence. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. What does that mean?
Do good with your parents.
We translate it as be good with your parents, right? But isn't be good like an amr? Be good is an amr. Where is this amr here? There's no amr there. So that word ihsana is in place of the amr. And you could say it's like ahsin ihsan, or you can just say that the word ihsan is there badlan min fi'lihi. The masdar is there in place of the verb. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. You know, you use it so much. In your normal life, you use it so much. You just didn't know it. When you say to somebody, shukran, why are you saying it in nasb? Maf'ul mutlaq. Afwan. Why are you saying it in nasb? That's maf'ul mutlaq. That's what you actually mean is ashkuruka shukran. Afawtuka afwan. I have pardoned you. Right? So you use it in place of the verb. But the meaning, why, and this brings us back to something else that you might have mentioned before. Why use a noun instead of a masdar is a noun form, right? Why use the masdar form instead of the verb? Nouns are not time bound. Remember, definition ism, complete meaning, not time bound. Fi'al, complete meaning, time bound. Harf, not complete meaning. So when you use the ism form, it's like it's not time bound. I thank you timelessly. Right? So now let's look at this sentence again. Where is the maf'ul mutlaq here? Where? Ihsanan. Ihsan is in nasb. Why? Because maf'ul mutlaq. The verb would look ahsin. Wa ahsin bil walidain. Or wa bil walidaini ahsin. But instead of saying ahsin, here we have just the masdar. Here it doesn't necessarily come for emphasis. It doesn't come for clarifying type. It doesn't come for clarifying number. It's just in place of the verb. Right? And that's all over Arabic. Labbaik. Labbaik. Wasa'daik. Marhaban. Ahlan. Wasahlan. Sam'an. Wa ta'atan. Have you thought about it? Those are just one word in Nasb to replace a whole sentence. A word can't be a whole sentence. A verb can. أرحب بك. ألبيك. That can be a whole sentence. But yeah, Maf'ul Mutlaq also comes just in place of the verb. All right. Okay. So I'm going to work through some of these with you. وقالوا اتخذ الله ولدا. Any مفعول مطلق there? No. اتخذ الله, Allah is the fa'il, ولدا is the مفعول به. They said Allah took a son. Obviously we know that's a lie. So Allah says immediately after that, Subhanahu. Subhanahu. What does Subhanahu mean? Glory be to him, praise be to him. Subhanahu means Usabbihuhu. I glorify him. I free him from deficiency. Remember, I mean, I probably explained to you before what the word Sabbaha means. That in its relation to swimming, remaining aloof of deficiency. So Subhan is a masdar. And it's in Nasb. Why? Maf'ul Mutlaq. It's coming in place of the whole phrase. Subhanallah. It's not a full sentence. Subhanallah is a mudaf, mudafun ilayh. Where's the mubtara? Where's the khabar? Where's the fi'al? It's not a complete sentence. So that's again maf'ul mutlaq as a replacement for the verb. Another one. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته. So what do we have there? Where's the maf'ul mutlaq? Where is it? What hal is tilawatihi in? And haqqa. Can you see something that you recognize between haqqa tilawatihi? Haqqa is a light word. No al, no tanween. And tilawa is in jar. So what's that? Mudafun ilayh. Correct? What hal is maf'ul mutlaqin? Nas. Mudafun ilayh is in jar. And the he, tilawa is also a light word because it has the damir attached to it, right? That's also mudaf, mudaf. So where's my maf'ul mutlaq? Haqqa. Haqqa is my maf'ul mutlaq. But where's the verb? The verb is yatluna. Right? Just okay. The verb is yatluna and the masdar is tilawa. The verb is yatluna and the masdar is tilawa. But there's something attached to that word tilawa. And that is a description that comes not in the normal form of a mawsul sifa. I can form a mawsul sifa construction by having, I could have said, يتلونه تلاوة حقيقية. تلاوة حقيقية would have been a normal موصول صفة construction. Right? And then I could have said tilawa is my maf'ul mutlaq. And حقيقية is a صفة for it. But here instead, we have a mudaf, mudafun ilayh construction, not showing possession, but simply for bayan, clarifying or describing the tilawa. Haqqa tilawati means like a recitation that fulfills the right of recitation, or a proper recitation. If I translate it like that, you can hear that it's a sifa, isn't it? A proper recitation. So here I'm calling the sifa of the master the maf'ul mutlaq. How do you identify it? You can still see yet luna in tilawa. Master, same root letters. Your mind should be already thinking about maf'ul mutlaq. Verb, master, same letters. Your mind should be thinking maf'ul mutlaq. But now, hey, there's something strange here. The master's in jar. There's a mudaf before it. But that mudaf is describing it. So I just say that's actually in the place of the sifa. I'm going to call that the maf'ul mutlaq, and I'll call tilawa the mudafun ilayh. But it's no different from maf'ul mutlaq. That's mubayyinun linnaw.
Could haqq not be the sifa of tilawatihi?
Haqqa, in meaning, it is a sifa of tilawatihi. But in form, it's a mudafun ilayh construction. In meaning, in terms of how we understand it as a sifa. But in terms of the actual construction used, it's a mudaf and mudafun ilayh construction. Yeah. We call the sifa the maf'ul mutlaq. And we're calling the maf'ul mutlaq the mudafun ilayh. Because of the form. Don't try and complicate it yourself. Just see yatluna and tilawa. My mind is thinking maf'ul mutlaq. But there's something before there. So I'm pointing this out to you. I wouldn't have expected you to get it on your own. That's why I'm going through it with you. Give you an example like that. Form and meaning. You're right. Exactly. Always. Everything. From identifying ism, you need to know that. God always figure it out. In every concept in Arabic that you learn, because we're teaching the rules, you're looking for the rules. But in every concept in Arabic, it can be replaced by meaning, but it's a different form. Yes. So in the discussions on maf'ul mutlaq, right? In the discussions on maf'ul mutlaq, the definition of maf'ul mutlaq is it's a masdar. But as you would have come to know with Arabic, we have an istithna, an exception for every rule. So under the discussions on maf'ul mutlaq, the definition of it will be a masdar that is mansoob. Then you will have a separate discussion under it that says, what can stand in the place of the masdar? What can be the naibul masdar? Then you'll find sometimes you can have the masdar of another word, but with the same meaning. Sometimes you can have the sifa of the masdar. Sometimes you can have a ismul masdar. There's actually 12 things that can stand in place of it. So let's not complicate our lives. Right? Let's not complicate our lives. As we go along, we'll see them. As we go along, we'll see them. Right? As long as we have the basic concept, and then we have one example of how something may come differently, but we know it's related to maf'ul mutlaq. That's why I'm going through these with you. A quarter, one at a time. First. Yes. So the fact that it's that tilawatihi is in jar, that tells us that it's not maf'ul mutlaq in nas. Right? The question? Right. The correct word that will be called the maf'ul mutlaq in a sentence is haqqa. Okay, next one. Sibghat Allahi. That's a whole sentence in the Quran. Sibghat Allahi. Now again, you can see that's a mudaf ilayh construction, isn't it? There's no verb in the sentence. So what do I assume here? Sibghata is a maf'ul mutlaq. And it's coming in place of a verb. What the details of it is, what's omitted and all of that stuff, don't worry too much about that. Sibghat Allah literally means the dye of Allah. D-Y-E, coloring. D-Y-E. We go to Arabic, you'll find Sibghat Allah. And then the first Sibghat Allah. Maf'ul mutlaq. That's maf'ul mutlaq for a verb that is omitted, which we assume to be Sabbaghana Allahu Sibghatan. Allah dyed us in the dye of Allah. It's referring to the Sibghat Allah here, means the dye of Allah, but it actually refers to the deen of Allah. Right? From the perspective of that deen is something that's supposed to penetrate to your core. It is a mudaf. No. The dye of Allah. But how is that a full sentence? What do you understand from that? The dye of Allah. It's just a word, Sibghat Allah. But the question is, if all that Allah wanted to say in that sentence was the dye of Allah, then it would have been Sibghatullah. It would have been a mubtada. And then a khabar would have been omitted. But the fact that it's Sibghatullah, that tells me, no, there's something up here, there's something omitted, there's something to be understood. In Arabic, you can phrase things many, many ways. In fact, I can read a sentence with like, one day I'll show you, we'll come to some verse in the Quran, I'll tell you, you can read this, a word is mabni. Then I'll tell you, you can understand this word in raf, nasb, ujar. And if you understand it in raf, this is how I will interpret it. If you understand it in nasb, this is how and we'll understand it in raf, and there will be 3 different interpretations. We'll understand it in nasb, and there will be 3 different interpretations. You understand it in jar, then there will be another different interpretation. And that's why you actually need tafsir, and you actually need to know the language. Sometimes all of those meanings are intended. That's part of the miraculous nature of the Quran. And it is multi-layered in its meaning. We'll see when we come across it one day, inshallah, if I feel like wrecking your brains. Huh? Okay. Okay, how do you know it's maf'ul mutlaq instead of hal? You see the same root letters. Yatluna, tilawa. In the same sentence. Right? Tala yatlu, the root is ta, lam, waw, and tilawa, the root is ta, lam, waw as well. In meaning it's tilawa, in form it's haqqa. Yeah, I was thinking to myself when I put this stuff down. But I thought, look, you must always understand here. If haqqa was out of the way, then tilawa would have been the Maf'ul Mutlaq. But it's just because we brought something in that chain that actually made this mudaf ilayh construction. Mudaf is a definite reason for a word having a hal. You can't, sorry, mudaf ilayh. You can't have a mudaf ilayh that's not in jar. But the mudaf isn't in a specific hal. No. It might be. That's very common. Okay, the next one. Okay, maybe we'll carry on with these examples again next week. Next one. And that's why I gave you another example of the same thing. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته. حق تقاته. Can you see? اتقوا and تقى. اتقوا and تقى. You can see the verb and that masdar, right? So your mind should be thinking of maf'ul mutlaq. But hey, this tuqati is in jar. There's something else going on here. Is this word haqqa? What is haqqa doing in this verb, in this sentence? Haqqa tuqati. A correct, proper taqwa. It's just describing. It's in its form. It's a mudaf ilayh. But in meaning, it's conveying the meaning of a sifa. Right? It's conveying the meaning of a sifa. So what am I going to call the maf'ul mutlaq here in the sentence? The word that's in nasb. What word is in nasb? Haqqa. What am I going to call tuqati? Mudafun ilayh. But essentially, what would have been the maf'ul mutlaq is that word tuqa, if that mudafun ilayh thing wasn't interfering. Then I would have said tuqatan haqiqiyatan as a sifa instead of a mudafun ilayh construction. Yeah. How will I identify was very easy. Yes? Huh? Our question is, how would you identify all the stuff without harakat? You must know your Nahwu. If you know your Nahwu, then it's easy to see. I will ask myself, can I read this haqqi tuqati? No ways. If I think that I'm going to read it like this, sometimes my wife wants to read to me. Then she reads something in jar after a verb. There's nothing that irks me more than that. Though, I mean, like I'm telling you, with all these exceptions, there can be a case, but you'll be after doing some very big gymnastics there for that. So I'll know it's not going to be jar. I know this can't be the fa'il. So it has to be in nasb. In fact, if I want to teach somebody to read Arabic without harakat easily, while they're just gambling with their reading, I just tell them to read everything in nasb. Yeah. And except those things that you know now, this is the mubtada, that's the khabar, just read everything in nasb. And what comes after harful jar, don't read something after harful jar in nasb. That's sinful. But even if they did read even the mubtada in nasb, there'll be a way that you can explain it. I'm going to show you one day a joke of somebody. 3 guys are sitting. Then they ask him to read something. That's like a little comedy skit. They all read it with a harakat completely different. Then the one says, who's right? They ask him, hey, you guys are all reading it differently. Who's right? Then all of them say, I'm right. Each of them say they're right. And then the one explains, how can you all be right? And he says, you see, then they all make a Arab of it differently. I'm going to watch it, and this is a joke, but it's Arabic words also. It's a possibility. How you're going to read it will just emphasize, will bring out different rhetorical nuances at times. Sometimes it will change the interpretation drastically. And at other times it won't necessarily. No. The Quran, you can't just pick and choose. Right? The Quran, like if I take an Arabic text, I can, mangle around with that. Because the Quran is not primarily text, like written text. The Quran is recited text. It's transmitted. So there are times in the Quran where there's different narrations, all canonical, because Rasulullah told him it can be read like this or it can be read like this. Right? That you have something in the Quran. Let me think of an example. وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ. In other narrations it's read وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةُ الْحَطَبِ. But why do I read it like that? Do I read it like that simply because it can make grammatical sense? Or do I read it because it was transmitted like that? I read it like that. It's okay for me to read it like that because it was transmitted canonically like that. I can then afterwards ask myself, okay, now what's the difference in meaning or rhetoric? But it's not like other Arabic text that I can, mess around with how I read it. No, the Quran is primarily an oral text. So that's one of the other important components to it being an oral text. If the Quran had to primarily be a written text, everybody could come up with different Arabs how they want to read it. That's why before even tajweed, you must recite correctly according to Qur'an. Everybody in this class recites the Quran according to a specific Qur'an and a specific riwayah. You don't know it necessarily, but we're just reading it how we were taught. The way we were generally taught the Quran here in Cape Town is we read the Quran in the riwayah of Hafs, from who narrates it like that from Asim. So we read in the riwayah of Hafs and Asim. You'll find other people in other geographic regions who read the Quran differently. Imam al-Shafi'i used to read in the riwayah of Ibn Kathir. So he, like for example, where we read in the Quran, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءِ. He read أَوْ لَمَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءِ. The Moroccans, by and large, read the Quran in Warsh. It's a different riwayah. That's opening up another whole can of worms. With the Quran, we don't read how it could be read. We read how it was transmitted. Exactly. We already know how it must sound. We read it based on oral transmission. And then we can understand and interpret from there. We don't take a text and then see how we could interpret the text alone, both of them together. Okay, we did 5 of the 10. The other 5 will do for next week, inshallah. Time's actually up. However, 7 and 8 are easy. Okay, we're in there for now. What I want you to do for homework is, we didn't get to Surah again. What I want you to do for homework is this, right? You can do 7 and 8 if you want to, but what I want you to go through again is, go through the examples that we did today in class, right? Listen to me. Go through the examples that we did in class today and consider it from the perspective of what you're seeing and the meaning. Right? So for example, when you see a verb and same root letters, let your mind go to Maf'ul Mutlaq. Right? And then you look at the form that you have in front of us, حق تقاته, and you just try and wrap your head around that, inshallah. But another important thing to mention is at times in Arabic, a verb comes in place, or a maf'ul mutlaq comes in place of a verb, and you use it all the time. Shukran, afwan. Instead of saying sami'na wa ata'na, we have heard and we have obeyed, you can just say sam'an wa ta'a. It's in fact more emphatic. Asma'u wa uti'. I hear you and I'm going to obey you. You can just say sam'an wa ta'a. Labbayk wa sa'dayk, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaban. All of those are all examples of a verb coming or maf'ul mutlaq coming just in place of a verb. So just try and wrap your head around that, and then we will go through it again next week, inshallah. We end there for now. وجزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.